Hey there, Live Like Your Nail Color Gals. I'm excited for today's episode for at least two reasons. The first is that we're wrapping up the mini-series on women's essential relationships with some fun. So far, the series has explored what to do and how we can ultimately benefit. Yes, benefit when we've had chip happen in our closest relationships, like a breakup with a spouse or partner, caregiving for aging parents, and the shock and sadness when your adult child is suddenly estranged. Now, when any chip happens in your life, where do you immediately turn? I bet it's a gal pal or a female friend. That's why today we're exploring what we really need from female friendships at midlife and how to go about creating and nurturing them. Because the opportunity to create rich female friendships at this point is greater than ever if we're willing to try. The second reason I'm excited about today's episode is because I'm taking a summer break from new episodes, but not because I'm tired of them, not at all, because I want to make this podcast even better. And I'm creating something new that I think you'll be excited about. Over the next few weeks, if you want to get notified of what I'm doing off mic, including how you can help me shape the Live Like Your Nail Color Podcast 2.0, then make sure you're getting my emails. To get on the list, go to livelikeyournailcolor.com/notify. That's NOTIFY. Each week, I will let you know the latest, how you can chime in if you'd like. Plus, hear about some cool things some of my most popular guests have been up to. Again, go to livelikeyournailcolor.com/notify. One last thing before we dive into our conversation on female friendships. Have you taken my quiz to determine your nail color persona? I always ask my guests, and it's amazing how spot on it is, and just plain fun. To take the quiz, all you have to do is go to livelikeyournailcolor.com, answer a few quick questions, and in your results, discover your specific nail color persona, your built-in strengths, and what your fave go-to color, or none at all, reveals about you. Again, go to livelikeyournailcolor.com. Now, let's get to today's episode.
Tired of so much chip happening? Discouraged by so much downer news? Weary from chronic crisis? Don't let the chips keep you down. Welcome to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast, where the tips of your fingers and toes are ready to inspire you to not give up and to keep creating the business, career, and life you want. In each episode, we flip the chip and let our fun nail color with that crazy fun name cheer us on to remember our strengths, embrace the power of choice, see life as an adventure, and know resilience is only a touch-up or change-up away. Get ready for a good time and a good laugh with your host, Mary Foley.
Hey again, friends, and I do mean friends. All your comments, DMs, and encouragement about this podcast has made me feel so good. Like a friend who unexpectedly sends you a card in the postal mail for no reason other than to say, yay, you. Don't you love that? Well, in a world of swirl, these simple positive thoughts are even more powerful than ever. And I've never called anyone friend who enjoys talking trash about me and everyone else. You know what I'm saying? But a funny thing happens on the way to creating a career, building a business, raising a family, taking care of aging parents, walking the dog 3 times a day, and doing a bazillion other things called life. Our female friendships so easily take a back seat. And starting new friendships, well, that takes time and energy. Plus, we remember those mean girls or other friendships that hurt or ended badly. But here's the thing. Research shows that relationships, including female friendships, are key to our happiness and longevity. We're talking increased heart disease, depression, dementia, and more. That's enough to kick our schedules and discomfort to the curb long enough to figure out how to add female friendships to our lives at midlife. And they can be even better than ever, is my experience. And that's why I've invited 2 of my previous podcast guests back on the show to have a conversation about this topic. I want to get their thoughts and their ideas because we still got a lot of living to do and we need some gal pals to do it with. The first gal pal is Jill Baughan, host of the podcast called Find Your Joy No Matter What. She describes it as doing joy shots with a friend. So you can see why I asked her to join us today. And if you want to hear the podcast that I did with Jill earlier, look up episode 20 on just that topic, finding joy no matter what. Joy, welcome back to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Mary, thank you. Can't wait to get going here.
I can't either. Okay, so the second gal pal is Patti DeNucci. She is a speaker, facilitator, and author of her brand new book, More Than Just Talk, The Essential Guide for Anyone Who Wants to Enjoy Better Conversations. And you know, any good female friendship has lots of good conversations. You can listen to our conversation about having better conversations in episode 35 and 36, and it's definitely worth that trip. Patti, welcome back to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Thanks, Mary. It's just what a joy to come back.
It is joy. It is fun. You know, I was thinking so much about this topic, about female friendships at midlife, you know, after we've had several decades, you know, in on this thing called life. And I was like, who are some gal pals I have that would really be fun to talk to about this and have really, you know, for what they do, something to add in. And I thought of you and I thought of Jill. And so I want to dive in. But before we do that, you know, with each episode, I always ask, you know, my guests, what is your nail color persona and what did that reveal about you? So we're going to do a quick recap because you did share that already on the previous episodes where I had you on. But as a quick reminder, if you would each share what's your nail color persona and your fave color, and most importantly, did it nail you? So Jill, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. Well, I'm Naked Nelly. And I identified a little bit with the statement that says not afraid to be your true authentic self and show it to the world. But, you know, tough times get you down. So that's me. Also, I'm just kind of lazy. So
there you authentic.
That's also me. My favorite color is orange. And I loved. And I didn't look at the description of the color. I just, you know, before I chose it. And I think I said this last time too, but the description, I would love to be this: full of joy and sunshine, happy, enthusiastic, warm, all that nailed me to a T.
I love it.
There you go.
That's like a sunrise. I always think of orange when I think of a sunrise and all the beautiful colors that start at the very beginning of a sunrise. So
right.
The fact that you are, you know, you have a podcast called Find Joy No Matter What. And therefore that's on your mind, it's on your heart, you know, and you keep pursuing that. I think orange is definitely your color, even for Naked Nelly. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
So Patti, what about you? All right, recap. What's your nail color persona and favorite?
I too am a Naked Nelly on my hands, at least. Yesterday, actually, my nails were full of paint because I was painting. And then on my toes, I lean toward the pink. But it's so funny, no matter what color I pick at the nail salon, it always looks the same to me. And my favorite pink is called Party in My Cabana, which I don't think LPI makes anymore. And, you know, we're trying to resurrect, you know, every last dab out of the bottle I do have. So I think that suits me really well.
It does suit you. Perfect. All right. And of course, when you have a party in your cabana, it requires friends. I'm just saying, it requires friends. I mean, you can have a party by yourself, but it's not nearly as fun, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now in your life, with so much going on with work, family, flames, personal interests, health challenges, and more, I want to know, kind of get a quick dipstick here. How important are female friends on a scale of 1 to 10 for each of you, with 10 being super important? And if you would share why that number, whoever wants to dive in.
Go ahead, Jill.
10, absolutely 10. And as I thought about this, I thought, you know, just for the reasons that you said, we need all the support and encouragement and joy, not to be corny, but joy that we can get from our friends right now, especially this time of life, because this time of life, you're really starting to feel, I think, a lot of loss and a number of reasons for your joy to go underground. I think so. Super important. I think friends can be more objective than family sometimes. So they're not mired in the same muddle, that you are, and they are better able to pull you out sometimes, I think. So that's why I think 10, 10,
Wow.
10, 10.
10, 10, 10. Okay. Wow. And that point about loss, whew, that does. It could be loss of a actual life, but it could be just loss of many other things.
Oh, yeah.
And the vitality, so to speak, of earlier
Body
days.
things. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Sometimes though, there also can be a positive loss, like hearing as much about those things. Just there can be that. But
Yeah.
Patti, would you go ahead? What is your number?
Not to be repetitive, but boy, a 10. And I was thinking, I just think of my book team alone they're all women, and they're all my friends. They're all friends. They say don't work with your friends. I don't agree with that. I think friends know you really well and love you and want to see you succeed. But I think, when Jill's talking about loss and health and objectivity of friends over family, I think I have 3 older sisters. I love them dearly, but there's always a family dynamic involved that goes way back to like when I was 5 and I'm the youngest.
Right.
So, again, I love them. I enjoy time with them. I enjoy their guidance, but my friends give me something. They know me as an adult, as a business person, as a mom, as a, whatever, as a grown-up, basically. But, I think, and I have a wonderful man in my life who I love spending time with, but it's not the same as being with girlfriends who, again, as you get older, your body's going through changes. You may run into health issues. Your career aspirations are shifting and changing because you want your life to have meaning and to continue to have meaning. And those very well chosen friends can be the most energizing force in your life. Creativity, with the creativity, with the objectivity, with the gentle criticism when needed. I agree. Total 10.
Wow. All right. I didn't ask you this rated question prior. Let's see. Patti feels a 10 and Jill feels a 10. So let me ask them about female friendships. Well, no, that's great. And I appreciate that. Not everybody would rate themselves right now as a 10, right?
Well, and I just want to jump in and say, I think Jill and I both know, because of our work as authors and speakers, we've done research, and we not only feel it intrinsically, but we've read about the research that says how important friendships are to your well-being on every level. So we know this intellectually as well as personally.
Yeah. I appreciate that, because I think when I started to research for this episode, I was amazed at article after article really pointing from studies, sometimes the very long-term studies, about the impact of female friendships on women who have, several decades under their belt. I have seen too many women at this age who are older than I am, who are, more farther down the road. And too many of them don't have many friends in their lives, and they're alone. And I think, I don't have to have 100 women who are my best friends and always going around with a crew to feel good. But if I've had periods of my life as a younger woman where I was divorced, and then I was living alone, and then I had friends, but what I found was, if I didn't interact with some people who knew me and loved me and care about me on a regular basis called friends, I started getting squirrely. I just started getting not right. And I think it was that depression wanting to kick in, or wanting to, to be that. And I'm like, okay, even more important at midlife. So here's what I'm curious about. So right now, at this stage of your life, what do you personally want from a female friend? What's like top of your list, Jill?
I want a friend who is very honest, a friend who has a sense of humor and a fair amount of snark, because that's just makes real life fun to me. If you can make fun of things together, so fun. A source of encouragement, really a heart for fun. And I also, as I was thinking about this, a willingness to be adventurous. And that doesn't necessarily mean jumping out of an airplane, because I ain't doing that. But adventures can come in all forms. They don't have to be physical. They can, and I like those. But also spiritual adventures, emotional adventures, friendship. There's all kinds. If you think about adventure as being just taking a risk to experience something remarkable, I love somebody who's up for that.
You know what, though? Those descriptors, I love this. It makes me think of, well, wait a minute, that sounds like a 25-year-old. I mean, seriously, it sounds like I'm new at this thing called adult life, and let's go have some fun and try all these things. And it just goes to show at midlife, like you're redefining it. I don't know what. I'm glad I didn't read any playbook about, quote, what are you supposed to look, feel, or do at midlife. Right.
Well, there's something else that helps is a sense of shamelessness, and that gets better and better and better as the time goes on. And I just love that you're not so self-conscious anymore. I don't feel like I have an image to maintain, just being who I am. But that snark, boy, my favorite people can just lay it on. I love it. And it's an instant connector, I think, so if you can laugh together and even make fun of yourselves or something together, that's such a connector. So that's what I look for.
I love it. There's a lot of women who say fun, laughter. Not that many women say snark. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
It's good.
It's good
life. Good life.
What about you, Patti? What do you want most from female friendships?
Oh my gosh. I look for people who are, I love a lot of the things that you said, Jill. That's great. The humor, the looking at life in a positive way, finding the positive, because, life does get more high maintenance, I think, in some ways when we get older. I think it's also a really wonderful place to be. And I think there are a lot of, when I say older, I don't even know where to put the older number, but, compared to a lot of younger women, I think I do a lot of things that are riskier, crazier, more adventurous than some of the younger women, like in their 20s and 30s, because they're still figuring life out. But again, I look for positive. I look for people who are supportive, who celebrate me and allow me to celebrate them, who are resilient, who've been through some stuff, so they have empathy. And I love the sense of humor. I love the wit. I love being able to say, hey, let's go try this. Like you said, Jill, let's have some adventures. Let's go do things. Let's be interesting people. And I think that's what helps keep us young. Youthful and vibrant. Vibrant is a great word that I like to use.
Yeah. So instead of like dialing it down in energy, particularly emotional energy, you're dialing it up.
I don't have, well, I wrote a whole section in my book about drainers and downers and how different ways you can deal with them. And when I say drainers and downers, I don't mean someone who's having a bad day and it's your turn to listen to them, or a bad year even, because they're going through something difficult. But it's the people that just look at life from a chronically negative point of view, or they're always the victims. Always. Nothing's their fault. It's always somebody else's fault. I just don't have any tolerance for that anymore.
Nobody has time for that. Okay, so you both highly, rate like a female. You put 10s for female friendships. You're clear about what you really want in those female friendships, but you're both busy. I mean, you've got, you're writing books, clearly, you're facilitating, you're speaking, Jill, you've got a podcast, Patty's probably going to have some Broadway production at some point. I don't know. The point is you're busy. So how do you personally make time for female friends? Because that can be a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think my calendar is my best friend in this case, because it forces me to be intentional. And I'm trying to be better about this. How many times do we say, oh, we need to get together. We need to do this. We need to do that. And I'm much better now at saying, okay, let's just get it on the books. Let's get it on the books. Because if it doesn't go on the books, who knows when or if it will happen. So I think being intentional and writing it down and scheduling it in, that is the thing for me, because you're right. There's so much. And I know, Patti, you know this, if you're a writer, you could go out and be with people and play all day, every day. You could, but you know that you can't.
Yeah.
On the other side of it. And so it's you deal with some guilt there because it's taking time away from your work. And how many lunches can you have? Because lunch with a friend, my husband can go to lunch with a guy and take an hour. I can't do that. It's not going to take an hour. It's going to take way more than that, especially if you haven't seen each other for a while. So I still struggle with that. I will be honest about that. I struggle with the time that it takes away from work, but still scheduling it in, that's just crucial for me.
Yeah. When you have that lunch or that get together, when you go back to writing, are you more energized?
Sometimes I'm more distracted. I'm thinking, oh, we talked about this and we talked about that. And for that reason, I do my best work in the morning. And so, that's another way to be intentional for me. And that is get her done in the morning and focus in the morning, which starts the night before, which makes me go to bed earlier the night before. It's just dominoes,
Yeah, sure.
It all makes you be intentional.
I was just going to say, it's the whole thing is about being intentional with your time,
right? Exactly.
Spending it. So what about you, Patti? How do you make time? I mean, you as a speaker in particular, you could have you're going tomorrow to San Antonio, and then next week it might be on a Friday. I mean, it varies depending on other people's schedules.
Yeah, and I just came off of 4 weeks of a lot of doing a lot of speaking locally and a lot of networking events, professional events, social events, and I have a stack of cards here and so many people that I want to get on my calendar. Unfortunately, my summers, other than some travel, my summer's quiet. My book is finished. Jill, you mentioned, when you're working on a big project, you need to focus, which means you have to say no a lot.
Right.
And that's the part I hate about the big projects.
Exactly.
But I love that you said intentional, Jill. I love that you said your calendar. I'm the same way. I'm mixing in a daily workout. I'm a napper. I have to have a nap in the afternoon. I have to work my schedule around that. And I have found that I think my plan for the summer is to try to do 2 coffees or 2 lunches a week, to back off on the bigger meetings and to get truly caught up with some of the people that I haven't seen since post-pandemic or maybe before, because I was so busy working on my book for the last 8+ years. You have to want to. You have to make it just like exercise and eating well and getting the sleep. You have to make your friends a priority.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. And you have to choose which ones are the ones that are going to, I don't know, where you're going to find the most mutual satisfaction.
Right.
Yeah. Fill your tank.
Trying to invite a friend to lunch who I know is going to just spend the whole time talking and just leave me like a, worn out, wrung out dish rag, or the ones where I know we're going to have a wonderful balanced exchange.
That's another intentional aspect. Yeah, you're saying. I love that you also put you codified it as 2 meetings a week or 2 coffees a week, right? So you twice, first of all, it's 2. And the second is it's a coffee or it's a shorter time period. Right. And then you're like, all right, so who am I going to invite? So now it sounds like you're proactively inviting, right? So that's part of it, because if you just rely on, the next time you see them, you might not see them. Right. Or, so you both were like just really intentional, but I also am hearing you're putting it up there with work projects, working out, taking care of your health. Probably,
There's one more little measuring tool, and I forget where I read this, probably in Oprah's magazine years ago. There are the 5-minute friends, the ones you run into in the grocery store, and you say, "Oh, hey," and you get caught up, and that's good.
Yeah, that's all you need.
That's enough.
Sort of happy hour. And then there's the friends that maybe you want to do, like you want to spend the afternoon, you want to go shopping, or you want to go on a little road trip together, go to the flea market. You can put friends in those, they don't have to know it,
Right.
Tell them the category they're in. But you can categorize your friends that way too, if you want to, in your own heart.
You're just being discerning. All right. Because let's face it, you are that friend. We are that friend to someone else. We're the 5-minute friend to someone else. We're also the long, deep conversation friend, and then we're like the woohoo party friend, trying to adventure friend. I mean, we're not all created equal to one another. And I think that's cool. But actually, that makes me think of you and your dinner parties, Patti, because you are very intentional about hosting them, having these rich conversations.
Conversation salons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really particular about who is on the initial invitation list, proper language, invitation list. And there are people that don't get invited back because they kind of bent or broke some of my rules, which I'm very clear on. We're not going to do any selling. It's not a heavy networking thing. Don't get on the soapbox, dominate the conversation. This is mutual enrichment and support.
And some of these people that you invite probably they don't know each other at all. Some might be acquaintances, and some might be like good friends, like one another, right? You know them all in some capacity. So because you are basically the conversation starter queen and the richer starter conversation queen, what are some ideas about having rich conversations with those who we've just met, or with those we do know in some capacity, maybe even longtime friends, because those can sometimes get stale if we don't ask those kind of richer, deeper conversations.
Are you asking me?
Yeah. Okay. What are some conversation starters or ways that we can initiate those rich conversations?
Well, caring and curiosity, which means good questions. Having good questions in your back pocket. Those questions are what lead, manage, extend, deepen, expand, shut down, shift the conversation. So if you're not enjoying the conversations you're having, I would say think about the questions that you're asking. Like, how are you? I mean, okay, that's not very specific. It can go in any direction. Whereas if you say, tell me something interesting that's happening in your life right now. What are you doing that's bringing you joy, to tie in Jill's theme? The questions to me are what guide the exchange. Yeah. And then, of course, doing your fair share of listening. The balance is supposed to be 60-40, where you spend 60% of your time listening, 40% of your time talking. And, I can say that I've broken that rule a few times, but I'm working on it because I'm aware of the rule.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just knowing that there is a good rule. And you did that. You came up with that 60-40. I know we talked about that in our, episode with the two of us, talking about really the richness of conversations, how to have them. You realized that from your own research, the 60-40, right? And, the female friendships that tend to drain me the most are the ones that's probably 80-20 or 90-10, right? So, because it takes a lot of effort to listen well.
Definitely.
And then, I'm thinking, they might say something, and then I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to ask her more about that, or I'm going to ask her a follow-up question. But because she's talked so long, now we've on the third topic or subject, and like, I can't hold the space in my head for all those conversations, let alone I don't even know if she could go back there, right? Kind of a thing.
Right.
So
Yeah. I think building an awareness of how much am I talking versus listening. And, talking is very expressive, and we women can be very expressive. And, if we haven't talked to anybody, that's the other thing. A lot of women have admitted to me, I talk too much because I don't have very many people to talk to. And that my cure for that is, well, get out more, maybe do some journaling, maybe do things that are expressive to get things out, and then just be more mindful. But I want to hear what Jill has to say on this.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So what about you? How would you initiate rich conversations with either women you have just met or someone you have, more of a relationship with already?
The people have more of a relationship with, I heard one time, a great opener, and you kind of have to know somebody pretty well, but not always, to say this rather than how are you, like you said, Patti, that's a loaded thing, was, well, what's it like to be you these days? And if somebody's going through a hard time, I have found that that's a very non-threatening question. It's not, it opens the door for them to tell you the truth, but they don't have to tell you everything. With this, the breast cancer diagnosis that I had months ago, I'll still have people, even though I'm doing well, I'll still have people, give me this look that I just do not like, and open a conversation with this tone. How are you?
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to feel sorry. I appreciate your concern, but how are you? What are you really wanting me? I could start and I could talk a long time. I could tell you about physically I'm fine, the mental load, and on and on and on. But when somebody says, what's it like to be you these days? That is just the most inviting question. I've also used it with people I disagree with, the conversation queen, Patti, look who I'm talking to here. But I have grown to love that question. I ask it of my husband sometimes when I can't follow his, what are you thinking? Or why are you so ouchy today? Or rather than saying that, if I say, so tell me what it's like to be you right now, and shut up and listen. Awesome. I love that question.
I like that a lot because, maybe they'll share something that's not so good, but it also opens the door for them to examine what might be going well. It brings up the whole spectrum, and that, I love that question. I love that.
I love it too. I love that both these questions that all the questions you both have suggested, are about the other person and the curiosity. So I have found that when I have just a posture and an attitude of curiosity about the person, and then I'm able to have that crafted question that I can just pull out, because I do it again and again, which I love. Like, I always ask this question, and it fits so many circumstances. You can immediately connect with that person, because how many people? That's what I find fascinating. There's so many people who aren't ever really asked in a deeper way. How are you? Right.
Another one is, tell me more. Tell me more about.
So simple.
Tell me more about how that worked. Or I often ask my audiences wherever I am, like, when was the last time someone said that to you? And maybe one person will raise their hand. I think going a little deeper, tell me more. It means you're listening and you're engaged. How delightful is that?
Yeah. So any friendship is based and is started, in particular, on conversation, on interaction. If we wait for someone to ask the good question or tell us something, we might just be waiting a long time, which is what I love about having those questions. And I think at midlife too, you kind of go, I don't know what I'm going to hear. It's okay. In fact, it's a little bit of an adventure of itself. Like, I'm cool either way, right? Because it's not so I'm okay with myself enough to go, well, what about you? How things are going with you? There's just a different perspective that comes or can come, right? What would you say to the woman right now who's listening who goes, I'm really uncomfortable asking the first question, making the first move? Because either I'm super introverted or it's not because I'm introverted, I'm just emotionally shy and uncomfortable. What would you say to that woman right now? Patti, what would you say?
Well, I would say be ready for other people to fill in the blanks about you.
Mm.
I mean, if when you don't, well, first of all, it is our social duty. It is good manners to engage, to be proactive. And that's one of the things I tell a lot of the younger people in my audience, but it can be anybody. Oh, well, and people say, well, I'm introverted or I'm shy, which are two different things, by the way. Introverted means you get energized by being alone, and being shy means you're socially uncomfortable. You're always, once you're an introvert, you're always an introvert, but shyness is just about practice. And maybe that person didn't have good social role models. I had great social role models. I was really blessed. And then I'm also just very interested in this topic. But if you're not engaging, people are going to say, well, she's depressed, or she's a snob, or she's unfriendly. And who wants that? And it's like relying on other people to make your life better. I give the analogy of, if you want to get better at push-ups, you do more push-ups. It's practice.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It's just courage to engage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, heck, you could take the two questions that you both suggested. Jill, the one that you had, which I'm sure I get that right. What is it like to be you these days, or what is it like to be you right now? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Patti, if I can remember the question, it was, tell me something interesting in your life in the last.
Tell me. Well, the other thing is, I have in my book, if you're just one of these people you're going into an event and you're just terrified, even plan a little bit in advance and admit to everybody you run into, I have a question I'm just asking everybody today because I'm interested. What books are on your nightstand? And that's your question of the night. It's like you're a journalist who's doing a story on what's everybody reading.
Mm-hmm.
Come up with, what are your favorite hobbies? What was the biggest lesson you learned during the pandemic? And come up with a question du jour and admit to it. And people find that charming.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't forget you easily.
No, they don't.
I mean, because they don't get asked interesting questions so often. I think that's it. These are great. Now, I also know at this point we have lots of history at Midlife, right? With that is also baggage. Yes. We have some things that are heavier weighted down in our life experience. And for some people, that means I've got lots of stories to tell. But for others, it can be scary to be vulnerable, to even expose some of those difficulties or challenging times, or maybe times they just really don't feel good about themselves and what they did. So I am curious, what's your take on how to be authentic when starting new female friendships, when you've had already all these chapters in your life written? Now, you're both Naked Nellies in some way, so this might be an easier answer, right,
Mm-hmm.
for you to come up with. But I just know that there's some women go, I'd really like some new friendships, but I just don't want them to know about this in my life, right? Jill, what would you do about that?
I think there's a lot of value in somebody has to go first, and just open the door. But sometimes that's all it takes. And I don't think anybody needs to know the deepest, darkest. There's no reason anybody should feel compelled to tell anybody anything, really. But I think there are always ways to open the door. If you answer your own question, that's one way. Here's what it's like to be me. I've used that to explain myself to people before. Also people I disagree with, but whatever situation I'm in. So sometimes answering your own question, I think there's a lot of value in that. I was at an agency conference or retreat last week, and this particular agency It's a literary agency. 90 mostly women in one room. And I did notice my husband was with us at dinner, and I was at a table with 3 other women that I did not know at all. And I said, these ladies got real personal real fast, but nobody was telling. And I asked him, I said, so do a bunch of guys that you used to work with, do they sit around and talk? He said, not even close. So I think most women, at least, and I guess I'm in danger of stereotyping, but a lot of women want to be known at heart. It's a privilege and a gift to be known. Everybody needs to be a little bit known. But these women weren't telling the deepest, darkest secrets. They were just skimming along the surface of, holy cow, dysfunctional relationships and errant children. But they didn't go into all the details. So, I think everybody should feel free to mention, but, you don't have to do a deep dive into anything you don't want to.
And you can still have a meaningful relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And certainly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What's your take on this whole thing about authenticity in midlife?
I think these days, there's several things I think about that. So I do like authenticity. I mean, don't try to be somebody you're not. Don't be like the cheap, like they said, don't be the cheap imitation of somebody else. Be yourself, which requires you have to get to know yourself. And sometimes that takes time. I know myself way better now than I knew myself back in my 20s or 30s. I have a track record now. But I mean, authenticity doesn't mean spilling your guts about things to a perfect stranger. I've had some of those very awkward conversations where somebody came out and just told me way more. And I think it was because it was paining them so much. They probably needed a therapy or some close friends, which they may not have. And I think, I sometimes wonder, why did you share that? What was your purpose of sharing that? Or sometimes I wonder why people ask certain questions. And isn't that one of the standard Dear Abby replies to someone who's crying for information? Like, why do you want to know that about me? What's the purpose? And if it's digging for dirt, I'm not interested in sharing. I'm not really interested in sharing the dirt on somebody else. But I think we're also in this age. There was a time right around when the pandemic was kind of wrapping up, that people were spilling their guts left and right on LinkedIn. And it was so uncomfortable to even go on LinkedIn, where people were sharing you'd have to scroll like 7 pages to get the whole thing. And it was really deep. And I don't understand that. I don't understand.
Yeah. I think your question is that question of asking yourself, what's the purpose of why I'm sharing?
Yeah, because everybody has gone through something.
Right.
I'm more interested in how you dealt with it. How did you deal with this and come out on the other side? That's what people want to know.
Yeah, exactly. Not your dirt, so to speak, not your hard times for the sake of just a hard time. What I love about being at midlife when it comes to female friendships is that I think my experience has been when I'm a bit vulnerable about, my life hadn't been perfect. I'm not perfect. I've been through some struggles, and it might come up appropriately in a conversation, or I might listen to a gal, and in my listening, I think I want to share with her. I've kind of been there too, but my circumstance it was a little bit different, as a way of connecting and relating. And I think it gives others permission to go, okay, yeah, you're going to be real. Oh, okay, you can understand some of what I've been through. We all want to be known, we want to be understood, and we want to be accepted. But to say that the prerequisite for that is I have to tell you everything about my life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and have you go through this discourse in order for us to be friends, is the farthest thing from the truth, right? As well, the conversation queen in the house. We've got the joy queen in the house, right? Okay, with Jill. All right, so humor always attracts, right? Because when you can make someone laugh or make them feel at ease because of your own humor, it's just great. So I'm wondering, being that, you're in the pursuit of finding joy no matter what.
Mhm.
What do you do personally to find joy in female relationships?
This answer is similar to my other answer about being intentional
Mhm.
about partnering up. But I'll tell you one way in particular that it has been so fun and so rewarding and has cemented one particular friendship of mine. And that is when you team up with somebody else, a female friend, to do something for somebody else.
Oh.
One Halloween, I have a friend who is kind of crazy, she's got a really good sense of humor. One Halloween, I was lamenting. I said, nobody's inviting us to their Halloween parties. And it's not fair. We both agreed that the kids got all the fun on Halloween. I didn't really want to throw a Halloween party. So I was lying in bed at night, one night where I get the bed in the shower, where I get all my ideas. And I thought, why don't we dress up? So we get to do that. And then we go reverse trick or treating and find some people who've had a rough time this year and give treats out. And of course, I thought of my friend because she loves to dress up too. That was 6 or 7 years ago. And I made a list of we've been flamingos, chickens, bees, Minnie Mouse, Lucy and Ethel, Wonder Woman, all these things. And we start planning now our Halloween a year in advance just because it's so much fun. But that is one way, I think, to find a lot of joy is when you yourself do something for someone else. And if you are in a terrible funk, there's nothing quite like it.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing quite like it. But you pair up with somebody who loves to do the same kinds of things. I mean, dressing up in costumes might sound like a hideous way to have a good time to some people. To a lot of people, I don't know. But the fact is that this was a friend that I knew. It just gave us energy and joy. And then to lay your head down at the end of the day and think, somebody else was brought joy because of what we love to do. We just shared what we love to do. That is the ultimate in friendship to me.
That reminds me a little bit of the Sweet Potato Queen's Book of Love.
Oh, yes.
I have never read that.
You can look it up, Jill. The Sweet Potato, it came out.
I'm writing it down.
Years ago, Jill Connor Brown. And she and her friends, they live in the South, and she and her friends would dress up in these sparkly outfits and these big wigs and go to nursing homes, and they'd be in parades. And it was something similar. Plus, the book is hilarious. I mean, I think I split a rib.
Yeah. Oh, I was on a plane and I just want to pee in my pants. I was laughing so hard and then trying to not be guffawing so that everybody on the aisle. Oh my gosh, it's so hilarious. Jill, you would so appreciate.
I've got it written down.
Yeah, it's a great book. So everybody listening should read that book. The other thing I was thinking about is you were talking about your costume thing, which is hilarious. When you can see something in one of your friends, male or female for that matter, that maybe they're not seeing. I think some of my really valued friends see things in me that I've either forgotten or I've never seen because I live on the inside. I don't live on the inside. And if you can reflect back to somebody, something they do or have done or are good at, how is that not absolutely magnetic and attractive and endearing?
Mm-hmm.
I love that idea. And we change. That's the other thing too. If we're trying to live like our nail color, which might be Naked Nelly or some orange color. Wait a minute. What were those colors before? Party in a Cabana, right? Party in the Cabana. And we're going to have to aren't you joyful? Right. That's what we're going to call yours. Okay.
There you go.
There you go. But if you're living like your nail color, you're continuing to say, no matter what the chip that happens, I'm going to keep keeping at it, right? I'm not going to give up on this thing called life, my career, my business, whatever it is important. I'm going to keep growing. And so that means we're not the same woman exactly as we were when we were 30 or even 40, right? Or some of us even 50. So to have a friend who's known us, or maybe not even known us that long, kind of mirror back to us, this is really cool about you now, even. All right. Or what I've seen you do or happen or become in the last short while. I mean, there's been lots of growth opportunities disguised as a pandemic party. I'm just saying.
And we can give that to, we can hope we get that, and we can give it.
Yeah.
To people maybe we just met, like, if someone you've sat with on a plane for 3 hours and you had a nice conversation, it wasn't a draining conversation, it was just, you're a really great airplane seatmate. I just enjoyed this conversation so much. When you can share something positive with another person that maybe nobody has ever told them, that would change their life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Great idea.
Jill, and you like to describe your podcast as Joy Shots with a Friend, right?
Right.
This is like, how do you find joy no matter what? How do you find joy in female friendships? It sounds to me it's about finding joy shots and then giving them to a friend as well, right?
Exactly.
Find by giving some of that joy. And it doesn't have to be this huge thing. I mean, obviously it's become a huge thing with your friend on Halloween, because now you're like on year 7, 8, this is going to be like, there'll be a decade, the 10-year mark. We'll have this huge celebration, about it. But it could be something as simple as in a conversation, saying to someone about what you've noticed in them that you really admire, to your point, Patti. I mean, I said, in the very beginning of the intro about how when you get a card unexpectedly from a friend in the mail, isn't it like that just makes my day sometimes, I go,
or even a voice message.
Yeah, that's true.
I was just thinking about you. Do you remember that time whatever? And I just was thinking about that today. It made me laugh. I just wanted to share that with you. I hope you have a good day.
Yeah.
No obligation to call back. Just a little
right.
joy.
And then being intentional about it, going back to some of the comments about how do you make time for your friends? I was just thinking, like, I could do that, like, even just once a week, and put it as a half hour on my calendar, so that it's not so much that half hour can't be shifted around if things, but I've got it somewhere to say, I'm doing this. Make time for it.
Yeah, just choose to do it.
Yeah, if it's on my calendar, it's going to get done way more. Oh my God. All right, so we got to talk nail color again. This has just been so much fun. So if we could create a nail color name to help us to start female friendships or to stoke existing ones, what would that name be? So we can have 2 nail colors. All right. And it could be the color itself. Like you're like, I always like to focus on the name, because we can give a name to any nail color or none at all, actually. So Patti, what's your suggested nail color name?
Well, and I don't know if this is what we came up with last time, but it just came up for me. Colorful conversations. Colorful conversations. And it can be whatever color you want. I lean towards pink. Some people like red. Some people like, I don't know, purple, orange.
I love it. So now it's like colorful means, of course, interesting, right? Another way of saying interesting, but like all the colors are included, right? So
all inclusive. That's right.
All inclusive, but fun, lively, making it colorful. I love this. Jill, what about you? Do you have a nail color name to inspire us?
I have a name. It's just one word. I thought of confetti. So it could be something confetti, but I wanted to share with you. I don't know if I shared this with you on the last podcast or not, but there was a tweet on Twitter by a mother, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And she shared this story about her son who was in the back. It was her 8-year-old child in the back seat. And he said, "Is it okay to throw the confetti in my pocket?" And she said, true story, she said, "No, not in the car. Why do you have confetti in your pocket?" And his answer was, "It's my emergency confetti. I carry it everywhere in case there's good news."
That is so cute.
Is it brilliant? So I started at the end of talks that I have, giving everybody, and including in some cards that I send people, little tiny, tiny Ziploc bags of confetti. I carry a little bag of it in my purse all the time just to remind me, just in case there's good news. Be on the alert for it.
Oh my
So I think that would be a perfect nail color
Oh my
persona.
gosh. Yeah, I love it. What a great story. What insight from an 8-year-old too.
I know. And props to the mother for sharing that, because she knew it was brilliant,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, my mind goes to, well, if he always is carrying confetti in his pocket, how did she not figure this out by doing the wash? Okay.
Exactly. Maybe it was just that day. I
Maybe it
don't
was
I
that
don't
day.
know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly. But that's my engineering brain going down a road that's not very helpful. I'm going to admit that right now. Okay.
Stop
Let's
that.
distract and detract from the whole thing. All right. That is great. All right. So colorful conversations or confetti. Love it. Love it. Love it. Any last thought or piece of advice about female friendships at midlife from each of you from our conversation today?
I would just reiterate intentionality. That is key. That is what I would say, whether it involves a calendar, whether it involves me. As we've talked, I thought, you know what? I guess this is a second thought. As you were talking, Patti, when you said could be a text, could be a this, or that doesn't demand a response. When I think about connecting with people, I think, well, you need a good hour or maybe 2, or maybe it's going to take all this time. And no, it's not. It could be just like that. So thank you for that insight. That's what I would carry away. I need to change.
And there's science behind that. It's the oxytocin buzz. It's the little short conversations you have at the grocery store, at the gym, with your neighbor. Those create that little oxytocin buzz, and that's your tend and befriend hormone for people that are familiar with that. And it doesn't stay in your body very long, so we have to keep putting it in there like a little sprinkler system. But my comment about friendships and conversation in general is, have them like your life depends on them, because it does. I mean, there are so many benefits to your health, to your relationships, to your work success. I have here, and you mentioned studies, Mary. It's the Harvard study of adult development, and it's found that personal connections are the most important factor in long-term health and happiness. And they've been studying people for decades on their happiness levels in comparison to their relationships and their ability to connect with other people. So I couldn't think of reasons not to, other than if your only friends are drainers and downers, then that's like drinking Windex. Every time you get together with them, it's poison. So be mindful of have friendships, but be mindful of what those friendships and connections are.
I love it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Boy, such great thoughts. I'm just going to add mine. I was thinking and prompted me from something you said, Patti, which is at midlife, after we've had several decades of life and experience under our belt, I think we have even more to bring to a relationship than any other time in our lives. And it would be such a waste to not use that for not only our personal well-being, which you aptly noted, but Patti, but also what impact we can make on others through that. So thank you so much today for taking time and being intentional with your time, and you showing up, Jill and Patti, and being here and talking about this really important topic when it comes to, this whole mini series that we're now wrapping up on women's essential relationships. This is an essential one. And it's one that I would encourage every gal pal listening, that if you have those female friends in your life, stoke them. Send them a text today. A funny GIF would be even more appropriate, right? Maybe throw confetti. All right. Something like that. But start new ones too, and be open to that. And according to Patti, which I absolutely endorse, you can practice by anyone that you just happen to have to interact with during the day, as a way like going through the grocery store line. So you can start practicing, and questions are the start of it. And it's really not that hard. So gals, I'm going to put the links to our the other podcasts that we talked on also in the show notes. But for those who want to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that? Patti?
Patti, Patti DeNucci, DENUCCI.com is my website. You will get a somewhat annoying, but not too annoying little pop-up that will allow you to type in your information, and you will get some freebies, access to a whole lot of free resources, including a list of conversation starting questions. And you'll get my once a week blog, which I'm trying to pack with content and insights about connection, relationship, conversation.
I'm on your email list, and it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. And I love that you give here's some quick questions. And of course, I'm going to put a link to your book, More Than Talk, because I'm biased, but I think everybody should have a copy of that. Every really.
It just won a silver award from the nonfiction.
Woo! Congratulations!
Yay!
We got verbal and audible confetti.
Throw the confetti. That's right.
I have it in my pocket here just in case there was a good thing to happen today. Thank you so much. And Jill, what about you? What's the best way people can contact you?
Same. I'm just parroting. Jill Baughan, JILLB as in boy, AUGHAN.com. And same as Patti, if you stay on for just a second, a little pop-up will come up, and you can sign up to receive my podcast every week. Also, what comes with that is a little PDF about how to make a joy box for a friend. And so much fun. It can be, you can do it in Target in an hour. Or you can go, you can customize one, but there's a guide there. So it's a place to start for somebody you appreciate or love or want to say thank you to. So there you go.
Love it. Love it. I'm going to put links to all these in the show notes. So highly encourage every gal listening, check those out. It's about being intentional about who we're putting in our lives too. And these are two fun gals to put in your life. Thank you again so much for being here. This has been great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
And now for the after party I call Flip the Chip, where I take a few moments to highlight something my gal pal shared that can help us all flip a challenge or a difficulty that's holding us back into something more positive that helps us move forward. Wasn't that fun with Jill and Patti? What I want to highlight today are the big doable takeaways Jill and Patti shared about creating and nurturing female friendships at midlife. The first one is be intentional. Instead of saying, let's get together soon, Jill suggested that you schedule a time right then to do just that. Otherwise, soon is usually never. It could be a bigger thing, like maybe a long lunch, or it could be a short coffee, a Zoom chat, or a quick text or voicemail that says, I was thinking about you today, and here's why. Second takeaway, create conversations. Patti said, have conversations like your life depends on them, because it does. Conversations are the foundation of any relationship. So without conversations, there are no real relationships. And that's pretty much a no fun life right there. What's the best, easiest way to create conversations? Ask questions. Jill uses this juicy question a lot. What's it like to be you these days? Patti has a great go-to question as well. What's something interesting that's happening in your life right now? Then you listen and you add, tell me more. These two questions will get you off to a great start in any conversation. And here's my ad. Remember that you have more to bring to any friendship at this point in your life than ever before, because you can have more ways to relate and connect with others simply because you've lived several decades and you got the stories to prove it. Of course, you can also use your nail color to cheer you on by simply putting on a new nail color and giving it the name Colorful Conversations, as Patti suggested, or Confetti, as Jill suggested, so that every time you look at your fingers or toes, you're reminded that a great female friendship is just a conversation away. And that's worth celebrating with your pocket confetti. You can make good choices to keep creating the career, business, and life you want, one step, one nail color at a time. Be with you again soon on the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast. Ready to live and laugh more? Know a friend who could use some of that too? Then subscribe at liveLikeYourNailColor.com or your favorite podcast app and share this episode right now with the person who popped into your mind. Together, let's flip the chip to be stronger, smarter, and happier.